Well, welcome to Headley Park Church. This is an update on how things are going to be running on Sundays moving forward at this stage in the pandemic. You'll be aware that the regulations have come to an end and instead the emphasis on personal responsibility. So we want to explain how we're applying that in the life of Headley Park Church. Here are the things. It's going to be most similar to how life was before the pandemic. There's going to be no need to book into church anymore. Many of you will have been booking in with John Bakula and giving the dates when you're available to come and then being used to being seated in a zone. That's not going to happen anymore. You can just come on a Sunday as you used to and you can sit wherever you would like. There's also no longer any obligation to wear a face mask. We've been asking people to wear face masks when we're singing. There's no obligation to do that anymore. However, if you can, we would like you still to bring a face mask with you for reasons I'll explain later on. There's going to be a full programme for children. We've been running Head Start for a little while, but there's now going to be Creche open again. We're also going to have Head Start Plus for the older children. And the listening room is also going to be available during the morning service for those that have got very young children who need feeding. That again is going to be available to parents. So all of those things are happening again. We're also, with our children's programs, not going to be social distancing anymore. So with Head Start, there was a social distancing program in place. Not anymore. We're going to allow the children to mix in those groups with the adults. After the service as well, something we've not been able to do since the pandemic started, is have refreshments, tea and coffee with one another. And so we're going to begin refreshments again, some upstairs, some downstairs, and I'll say more about that in a few minutes. So a lot of things are back more or less to how they were before the pandemic, but there are also still some changes. So let me show you what I mean. First of all, over here we're still going to have hand sanitizer. So if you do appreciate being able to sanitize your hands in the way in and out of a building, that will still be possible for you to do. And then in church, there are some changes as well. So the room has more chairs in than it did have. But actually all the chairs are still more distanced than they were before the pandemic. So for those of you who are less nervous around COVID, the equivalent here, let me show you, it's almost of business class. I only have little legs, but as you can see, plenty of room for me to spread out. And even when I stand up, I'm not going to be immediately behind the person in front of me singing. So that's the thinking there. But with the edges, if you come this way, you'll see that the seats are still much more spread out. We're still trying to retain the 1 metre plus. So if you are someone who is still very nervous around the pandemic, maybe because you're shielding, you've got underlying health issues, why not try to come to church early and get yourself one of these seats? And if you are someone who's not that nervous, then definitely please sit in the middle. Also, just to say, when you do sit down, if you are someone who's nervous around other people, then you can put one of the church Bibles just on a chair next to you, and that's a way of saying, I want to keep this seat empty next to me. So if that's something that you do want to do because you feel nervous around people, then use a church Bible, put it on the chair next to you, and then we will know, that's our code for saying, okay, that seat needs to stay free, and someone then can sit next door but one to you. So if I was here and I was uncomfortable having someone next to me, I might put a Bible there, and then someone could sit on this seat. So hopefully we know that, and we'll know what that means, and we can respect one another's space as we go along. The other thing to say is because we've retained a certain amount of distance between the seats, there are fewer chairs in church. There's plenty, we think, for everyone to come along, providing we listen carefully to the stewards when they tell us where to sit. So try not to leave massive gaps in the middle of rows. Try to think where you're sitting, and that way we should be able to get everyone in who wants to come. If you do arrive later and you're not able to get a seat where you feel comfortable, we have also thought about that as well, and there will be additional seating downstairs, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. And so on a Sunday morning, if you do arrive later and you look around upstairs and you just feel that it's too full for you, you wouldn't feel comfortable, then why not just come downstairs? We'll be showing the service down here on the screen. There's obviously plenty of room for people just to take a chair and sit and watch the service and to enjoy it down in this space. It's also the space where we're going to be doing teas and coffees. There'll be some upstairs, some down. And so again, you'll be able to go to the hatch, get a tea and a coffee, and then sit in a small group with others from the church and have a chat with them after the morning service. We do hope you'll stay around and do that either here or back upstairs. So as well as refreshments downstairs, there'll also be an option to have refreshments up here at the back of the hall, and to stay in the upper hall and have refreshments, teas and coffees up here as well as downstairs, in the hope that we can spread people out and everyone can feel comfortable. We've left plenty of room at the back of church for mingling, but also you could take your tea and coffee back and sit down and have a chat with someone up here if you feel more comfortable being up here than downstairs. The last thing to say is this: we know that people are at very different stages in their attitude towards the pandemic. Some people feel very free just to go back to where they were before this happened. Others are still cautious, more nervous around the pandemic, anxious about what might happen moving forwards. And we want to be a church where everybody feels still safe and welcome. So we're asking people still to bring a mask. You'll never be told by one of us to wear it, but if you were to sit down next to someone who's already wearing a mask, then it might be courteous at the very least to say, would you feel more comfortable if I put my mask on? Those kind of little things, respecting someone and their personal space, so that we will try and retain distance from people if we feel they might be uncomfortable. So we just need to be a church where we care for one another in that particular way, not just thinking what's good for me, but what's good for my brothers and sisters, for those visiting the church at this time. We're going to continue to keep the windows open so the church is well ventilated. We're going to do the things that we can to try to mean that we can stay open safely. But a lot of it now is down to us as individuals to show love and concern, care for one another, and not just to think about what I want, but what's best for those around me. So I hope you're going to be able to come this Sunday to the morning service. I also hope you're going to be able to come to our evening service. And on Sunday evenings, we're going to have our evening service in the lower hall. It's going to be set up just like it is in the morning, with small groups around tables. We're going to be having services again, but down here in those smaller groups. But there'll be singing and there'll be praying and there'll be sermons, mainly this term from the book of Amos. So we do hope you'll be able to come here either at 6 o'clock live, or if you really can't make it down here, then why not join us again on Zoom? So we hope to see many of you Sunday by Sunday now back together again in the evenings. So we're more or less all ready for our first Sunday without so many restrictions. What a wonderful day it should be. Look forward to being able to welcome you and see you soon on a Sunday. Just one final thing before I leave. If you do wake up on a Sunday morning and you feel grotty or under the weather, well then, why not just still stay home and continue to watch our live stream on YouTube? We're going to keep that running because we do know there'll be some weeks when it's best for people to stay home because either they or one of their family are unwell. If that's you, then the YouTube service will still be there for you. Take care, God bless, and see you soon on a Sunday.